But Gavin, is there a particular place you'd like to start? Should we just go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes with the KB versus Cenk Uygur, what the people are hungry for, what the people are waiting for?
Yep. I think it was a great idea that Krystal invite Cenk Uygur on Breaking Points, because obviously she's a lot more respectful than ourselves, a little bit more polite. Plus, she has a relationship with Cenk and Anna that predates any of this recent drama. I'll just put it that way. So, obviously, I think we probably would have went in there a little bit angrier than Krystal did. But I think she was able to really expose Cenk in a beautiful way by catching him off guard. And I think by the end of this conversation, everyone will agree who the clear victor of it was. It's not Cenk Uygur, guys. It's not Cenk Uygur. Krystal absolutely dismantled this man, absolutely exposed the hollowness of his ideology, at least in this current moment. And she did it all politely with a smile on her face. As I mentioned, this is a masterclass. We can get right into this.
So look, the last thing on Trump in terms of why,
and then I want to talk, I want to talk to him about Elon. If you don't,
no, I don't mind at all.
But like minutes, right?
on why I'm not despondent as I was in 2016. Okay. So there's the right wing base, but there's one other thing with Trump. He loves being popular. So you got to get one decent person in the room to show him how to be popular, because I don't think he knows how. He's just grasping at straws. He's blind, right? He keeps doing A/B testing. He's like, okay, what's more popular, being pro-immigrant or anti-immigrant? He did that like back in 2015. He went on a radio tour, and he's like, pro-immigrant? No, that's not. Oh, okay, anti-immigrant. Oh yeah, okay, people like that, right?
Yeah.
So, but paid family leave is popular. Healthcare is popular. Higher wages is popular, and the right-wing populists like all that. Anti-war, anti-corruption. Those are all popular. And the right-wing populists agree with the left-wing populists. So there is an area of possible agreement there that could get something done that the establishment would never do. The establishment would never be anti-war. They would never be anti-corruption. They would be never anything positive. So like, we've broken out of that prison, and that prison was the worst place in the world. And it was filled with nothing but gaslighting about the American people suck and the donors are the greatest. The politicians are honest.
I just don't know who is going to be that voice, number one, because his administration is.
I'm going to try and not interrupt this 10 million times, everyone, but I would accept some of this from Cenk if it was 2016 and he was like, guys, Hillary was a disaster. Donald Trump is also likely to be a disaster, but we've never seen a guy like this govern. Maybe we'll be able to push him. But not only after watching all 4 years of him govern, not only after watching him abandon every single principle and fire everyone who tried to actually encourage him to do the populist things he ran on. He did like a new NAFTA. He built like, a portion of the wall, which I was glad to see didn't come to fruition, but he didn't repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. I could go on and on and on. Then this time he gets the nomination again. He wins the presidency. And what is his cabinet full of? It's a bunch of war hawks and neocons. And you had Matt Gaetz as like red meat to throw to the MAGA movement. And guess what? He had to resign in shame. So everyone that remained is like Marco Rubio or Mike Huckabee or, fucking Linda McMahon. It's like, there's obviously nobody that's going to reason with him from the outside. He's already had meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu's wife, and he's talking about how there's going to be hell to pay in Gaza for what they've done, as if there hasn't already. Do you guys see the game's already up? And for Cenk to be coming this late to the party and trying to argue as if we don't know, it's all a mystery, is obviously bad faith. It's transparently grifting, and Krystal's going to call him for it.
I just don't know who is going to be that voice, number one, because his administration has largely been filled with, almost, with a few exclusions, I think the labor secretary is a notable one, but with almost all like sort of right-wing ideologues. And number two, I guess part of what I'm grappling with as well is if you go down the list of issues, I'm all for a horseshoe, and I think there are some areas there, to work with Josh Hawley or work with, it used to be Marco Rubio, actually was kind of interesting on some of the economic stuff, like Matt Gaetz also was interested in some of the economics. All for horseshoe, working with elected representatives, et cetera. But if you go down the list, I think you and I are mostly ideologically in the same place. I'm sure we have some differences, but I think we're by and large ideologically in the same place. If I go down a list, I am on almost every issue closer to the Kamala Harris Democrat than I am to the Donald Trump Republican, whether it's healthcare or wages or labor or any of these things. And so that's what's a little bit like dissonant for me is, if we're caring about the policy outcomes, I think I'm much more likely to get improvement, not the things we would want, like Medicare for all, but much more likely to get improvement on the policy outcomes that I would want to see from a Kamala Harris. So react to that, but also like, are you saying that you're actively happy that Trump beat her at this point?
No, but
Okay.
so this, what I was going to say is, since I agree with you ideologically that I'm closer to the theoretical Kamala Harris positions,
Right.
that's why I voted for Kamala Harris
Right.
instead of
Doesn't
Donald
that
Trump.
fucking count?
Right.
And I'm worried that Donald Trump, again, never called him a Nazi, never called him Hitler, but fascist
Yeah.
is another word for
Same.
authoritarian, right? And so, yeah, I'm worried that Donald Trump's an authoritarian, so that's why I voted, and he said to terminate the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's why I voted for Kamala Harris. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, having said that, now that he has won, right, I would have preferred an actual populist instead of what I view to be a fake populist, right? But now that he has won, there is a tiny ray of hope that did not exist in the establishment prison.
Okay. I hear that.
So he last thing on that is, I'll give you a specific example. Paid family leave. Is Trump likely to do it?
Never gonna
No,
happen.
of course not, right? So, and was Kamala Harris going to do it? No, of course not. Okay. No, there's
I think you had a
0%
better chance with her then.
No, I totally disagree. That's where I disagree.
That's fucking
The establishment never wavers. They will do what corporate donors tell them, not 99% of the time, 100% of the time.
That's not true.
It is 100%.
But Cenk, I can give you
I will debate you on any issue.
I'll give you some specific examples from the Biden administration,
Okay,
which is
can't wait.
antitrust, Lena Khan.
Yeah.
Right. The Wall Street Journal hated him for that. The billionaires hated him for that. I mean, that was a big pressure campaign they put on Kamala Harris to make sure she got rid of Lena Khan and such. So that he was the most pro-labor president we've had in our lifetimes.
That is the lowest bar there is.
Of course. But these are two.
Notice how he immediately changed the goalpost after she absolutely clobbered his ass. I'll debate you on any single one of them. Okay, she gives you a very clear example. And if Cenk wants to pretend that as a progressive host, as a guy who cares about progressive economic policy, and also as somebody who cares about and values independent media, you're going to shrug off Lena Khan and the work that she's done for antitrust? Are you kidding me? There's a reason guys like Mark Cuban were shitting their pants about her getting her job renewed under Kamala. There's a reason that they were like, well, we really like Kamala, but we need her to come to her senses on this Lena Khan lady, because she meant fucking business, bro. Now, again, I am the last guy to be a Biden simp, okay? We debated Kyle midway through the Biden presidency. He was a lot more charitable to the guy than we were. We were absolute Biden haters, okay? And yet I will still tell you that is an inarguable benefit to him being president, right? And you could also talk about the NLRB, which he's probably going to, it's like, come on.
Yep. And it's also telling that kind of stuff, actual substantive wins that you could point to, Lena Khan, the NLRB, that's not enough for Cenk. He's more than happy to sweep it away and say, oh, what? You're impressed by that? What, the lowest bar in history? You're really going to tout that accomplishment? What are you, like the easiest person to please in America or something? But then he'll turn around and give Trump and Musk preemptive credit for something they haven't even done yet and absolutely will not do, but they responded to him on Twitter. So let's give them preemptive credit and hype people up and pander to MAGA now. That's Cenk's tact. But when it comes to a Democrat, when it comes to Biden, who, yeah, as Krystal said, not only did some really progressive things, but some downright populist things. Cenk keeps talking about populism. What's more populist than the NLRB, than labor issues and antitrust issues? That's actual politics. We're not talking about culture war stuff. We're not talking about identity. That's as populist as you could get. And again, we're not Biden fans, but you have to give it to the guy. Those are some of the few areas where he excelled at. But Cenk's not going to talk about it. Cenk wants to give Trump preemptive credit for something that doesn't even exist.
Bar there is.
Of course. But these are two areas where the donors did not want this, right? And his National Labor Relations Board, the general counsel, Jennifer Abruzzo, genuinely sort of revolutionary in her approach. And they ended captive audience meetings, for one example. A lot of the decisions she made helped to enable this grassroots labor organizing surge. And so, that was a break from neoliberalism. Now he has destroyed any possible positive legacy with genocide in Gaza and all kinds of other things besides, and being so arrogant and not getting out of the way, et cetera. But he did break with what the billionaires wanted and what the donors wanted in a few key areas. And I think we are that is not going to happen with Trump. Trump has already handed so much government power, and this will help us transition into Elon Musk with this Doge thing. I mean, Elon is not only the richest man on the planet, but he also has massive multi-billions of dollars in government contracts. He's one of the...
And it's such a great point. I know it's been made a million times, but I mean, if you even just look at Cenk's recent comments through that context, it all falls apart. Cenk Uygur for years and years has been supposedly against billionaire involvement, billionaire money in politics. And now he wants to act like he's optimistic and talk about how the establishment has been defeated, when Donald Trump is literally going to turn the government over to not just a billionaire, but the world's richest man. Literally the world's richest man. You could not construct a more cartoonish example of billionaires having control over our politics if you got together the world's greatest satirists and put them in a writing room and said, hey, come up with a movie.
Yeah, Mark Twain could be resurrected from the fucking death.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And Gavin, this is I was happy to see Krystal draw this same example, because this is something I tweeted yesterday before this interview even happened. It said, if Elon Musk was serious about cutting government spending, he would start with his own wallet. Socialism for me, but not for thee. People don't talk about the reason he is the richest man in the world is because of the government contracts that he gets to SpaceX, his share in equity in SpaceX. And I believe his compensation package of like $52 billion was just blocked by a judge because he was trying to pay himself $52 billion from SpaceX. Okay. Elon Musk is speaking out against government subsidies. Here is a list of the billions of dollars his businesses have received. And I was able to document last night easily like $19 billion that he'd recently gotten from the government. Remember, because Jeff Bezos threw a fit and said that it was favoritism in the government. So then they gave Jeff Bezos a bunch of government contracts too. Yep. It's absolutely ludicrous to take this guy seriously. And Gavin, do you remember when TYT, I don't know a ton about old TYT, but I do remember this. They used to talk about oligarchy. Cenk used to talk about how we don't live in a real democracy. We live in an oligarchy. And do you know why he would say that all the time? Because Bernie Sanders would say that all the time. And guess what? This is a textbook definition of, we are seeing the world's richest man, our country's richest man, leading our government and having so much sway. It's crazy that you would call yourself a progressive and defend that and act like that's somehow an exciting turn of events.
Yep, 100%. And not only is Elon one of the biggest welfare queens, he's also one of the biggest immigrant welfare queens. Hero the god. And anyway, let's keep going.
But he also has massive multi-billions of dollars in government contracts. He's one of the Pentagon's largest contractors. And whether it's Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or whoever, I, as a matter of principle, object to like rule by billionaires, rule by unelected billionaires. And this is like the most clear manifestation of that I've ever seen.
So for Biden and Obama, what they do is a release valve, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll give you 5 to 10% change.
Sure.
And I would argue that Biden at his height actually did 15% of his agenda. So for Democrats, that's like record breaking. We're only lying 85% of the time.
No, I agree with that.
Okay. So they say, well, look, we gave you a little release valve so you don't do a revolution. We gave you Lena Khan. We gave you a decent National Labor Relations Board. Now, of course, we didn't give you the PRO Act. Don't be ridiculous. We're not going to actually promise.
But how many Democrats supported the PRO Act and how many Republicans?
No, but that's my point. That's my point. Krystal, those Democrats are liars. They don't actually support the PRO Act. They don't actually support any
Elon
of those
Musk is telling the truth.
Giant, enormous liars. So you saw it on $15 minimum wage. Oh, we're for $15 minimum wage. And Joe Biden's like, get it out of the goddamn bill, right? He said in the first interview in the Super Bowl, he said, oh, no, we can't do $15 minimum wage. Why? And I remember talking to people in Congress saying, oh, Cenk, what are you worried about? It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Nancy Pelosi told us it's guaranteed, right? And what did we do? We forced a vote on it. And what happened? 8 sellout Democratic senators voted against the $15 minimum wage, including the 2 Biden senators.
And how many Republicans voted against
it? No, but Krystal, I stipulate that the Republicans are totally corrupt.
But are you? Because it seems like you're saying that you're more likely to get like something real out of them than you are out of the Democrats. And
thank you, Krystal. And I feel like in that moment, Cenk's contradictory ideology is exposed in such a beautiful way. It's all over this interview. Him saying, oh yeah, obviously the Republicans are way worse, but then also somehow I'm more optimistic and maybe because of how bad they are that we can actually work with them or something. No, dude, that's not what you actually believe. You're an idiot. And all you're doing is pandering to the right to make more money and to get more attention. That's what this is about. That's all that this is about. It's what we've been telling you guys from the very beginning, and it's appreciated that Krystal can sit here and calmly expose this, but let's all be honest, Cenk's not a moron. He knows what's going on, just like we know what's going on, just like he knew what was going on 4 years ago, and just like he knew what was going on 8 years ago. He doesn't think that there's, maybe we'll actually get socialism under Donald Trump, and maybe because of the fact that Elon Musk is the world's richest man and a defense contractor, that actually, maybe we'll actually get the change that we need. And my entire theory of politics has been completely wrong for my entire career. No, Cenk does not think that. It's a branding opportunity, guys. It's a branding pivot. How many times do we have to tell you?
And Cenk has demonstrated historically he's not above doing it, guys. When he talks about how, I founded the Young Turks in like 1999. Yeah, you were a Republican, dog. You were a Republican. And then over time, you were like, actually, it's wrong to be a Republican. It's way more popular online to be a lefty. That was what was in. That was what was, the cool thing to be for a while. And then it really skyrocketed under Bernie Sanders, and you doubled and you tripled and you quadrupled down that nobody was more progressive than you, Cenk, right? And now you're seeing the wind blow another direction. You're saying, the energy's on the right wing now. You're not actually being celebrated for challenging the right wing. In fact, you're being punished for it a little bit, because right now we're in a building stage. We're in a rebuilding season, and we have to recapture a lot of audiences. He's not willing to do that work. Instead, he wants to go run to the playground where there's more kids. Okay. And what's he doing? He's lining his pockets. He's changing his politics for views, clicks, and money. And it's important to note it's not the first time he's done it. He's actually regressing back to his original belief system. And I think that's telling that his transformation to a progressive was always full of shit.
Look, I'm clear-eyed about the Democrats. I've been plenty critical of them in their many failings, but I just don't think that's true. And, part of it is that Democrats get significant funding from labor unions, and that's a part of their coalition. And so that's part of why that's part of why they have been more, they have just, the Biden administration in particular was pretty consistently pro-labor. And I think they deserve, some credit for that. And
we just drag him to the picket line.
Cenk,
and he finally makes it to a picket line. Everybody's like, oh my God, a Democrat didn't lie 100% of the time. I'm not trying to say the Democrats
are perfect, but Donald Trump is a strikebreaker. Like he bragged, he went to Elon Musk and was like, isn't that awesome how you fired these striking workers?
But Krystal,
he has been a union buster his entire career. His first NLRB and labor secretary were horrendous. But it kind of feels like you are.
No. Look, let's be super clear about it. Right? Yeah. So if you say to me, establishment Republicans suck, I agree 200%. But the Republican populist base that elected Trump did a revolution against Mitch McConnell. Did a revolution against that establishment.
Because he was anti-Trump, because of his corporate.
Wait, who is the next speaker, the Senate Majority Leader?
Mitch McConnell's handpicked.
Handpicked heir. I don't give a fuck who he is, but he's not Donald Trump's MAGA puppet. Okay, it wasn't like some guy who'd been really fiercely loyal to Trump in the Senate got the upgrade and that they vanquished Mitch McConnell. It was the guy that was like, oh yeah, you are very Mitch McConnell. You're going to lie in front of traffic every day with a goddamn smile on your face for every corporate lobbyist in the country that cuts you a check. Okay. And that's going to be your job in the Republican Party. You're going to keep, whatever the surviving Koch brothers money flowing in. You're going to get all of the, whatever, Saudi Arabia money, the Bush's family legacy, whatever the fuck. You're going to deal with that.
Yep. Against Mitch McConnell. Did a revolution against that establishment.
Because he was anti-Trump, not because of his corporate whatever. Okay. Trump passed the biggest tax cut for rich people ever.
Nevertheless, the establishment Republicans are defeated and humiliated, and I love it. Okay,
I'm sorry, guys. I just have to show this to everybody because I thought that this is a really humiliating defeat for Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and the old guard of the Republican Party. This is Donald Trump hosting Sarah Netanyahu, wife of fugitive from international justice and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, at his Florida golf club on Sunday night. Right. And here you go. You have the old guard of the Republican Party looking quite vanquished, huh, Gavin? Looking like they were completely defeated. Wow. Crazy to watch. We must have missed it. We must have been asleep at the wheel. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, that's completely ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous to act like, this is a totally different Republican Party from the one that you used to know and fear. Trust me, guys, nothing to worry about this time around. It's a bunch of Trump has just surrounded himself by a bunch of people like Joe Rogan. There's no establishment Republicans. There's no neocons, even though actually there is.
Marco Rubio is Secretary of State.
But let's see what happens with the right-wing base. When he goes to start that war, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
So, no, here, I'll give you two specific examples.
Okay.
Number one, on paid family leave, neither one of them is likely to do it. And no, I'm not thinking everything is rainbows and sunshine and, oh, my God, Trump's going to be amazing. No, he is more likely to do what he has done in the past. And what he has done in the past is bad to terrible. Okay?
Yes.
So I've got that at about 75%. Everyone else has it at 99 or 100% that is on our side, right? And I think that that is wrong. I think there's a 25% chance that that right-wing base and his desire for popularity makes a difference. I think with
That
corporate
is
Democrats,
crazy.
you would have never, ever gotten paid family leave, even though it polls at 84%. They're enormous liars. All they have to do is introduce it and it passes, right? So the fact that they know that they can just introduce it and have it pass, and they won't do it anyway, shows you they are hopeless. They are 100% donor driven, and every once in a while release valve.
Can we pause it one more time again? Just to throw another wrench in here. Bernie Sanders, right? A guy that Cenk likes, Krystal likes, you like, we all like, right? He introduced a Senate resolution. Do you remember what that Senate resolution was for, chat? It was to stop a $20 billion arms sale to Israel. Basically, just another arms handout so they can continue to do their ethnic cleansing of the poor people of Palestine. You guys remember that? There were, I believe, 16 Democrats and 2 independents, Bernie Sanders and the other Democrat in the Senate that caucuses with the Democrats. Those were the only folks that voted to stop arms sales to Israel. What's his face down in Georgia did it. John Ossoff was one of the senators that did it. Okay, but not a single Republican did it. Not a single Republican broke rank and said, I want to support my MAGA base's initiative. I want to support my MAGA base's arguments and stop the flow of weapons to Israel. Absolutely none of them. Zilch. Zero. So not even Rand Paul did it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So on the pressure, but on the Republican side,
Yeah.
if you convince Donald Trump that paid family leave will make him more popular, he'll do it overnight because he doesn't care about Mitch
McConnell. There's a bunch of right-wing ideologues around. I mean, this is the thing. It's
I know there's ideologues, but then what are you going to do? Give up hope?
You just can't. No, but you
and
have
then
to
let's talk about the Pentagon.
No, but let's talk about the Pentagon because I do think that's an interesting point of conversation. If I look at how many Democrats support the PRO Act and how many Republicans, if I look at how many Democrats support paid family leave and how many Republicans, I'm not saying the Democrats are great. But I am saying that release valve is vastly superior to, with Trump, you're going to get some level of extremely cruel border policy, which is going to cause unbelievable pain to a number of people. You are going to probably get West Bank annexation and more brutality in the Middle East. And so I just can't sort of, I'll have a hope and a prayer that maybe something positive will come out somewhere. Like, I'm just clear-eyed about, I think there's going to be a lot of pain and cruelty and unnecessary suffering caused by this administration. So that's why it's hard for me to relate to like a sense of optimism about the possibility. Even as, again, I'm all for a good horseshoe. If there's an issue, Bernie Sanders has done.
That is such a great way of putting it from Krystal. It's like, we obviously know that what happened is so much worse than a Kamala outcome, regardless of your niche criticisms of Kamala, regardless of your broad stroke criticisms of Kamala, right? We now know there is no doubt that what we are going to watch from a foreign policy standpoint and a domestic policy standpoint will be more cruel. It will be a more devastating and more hardline policy on Gaza. It will get us closer to World War III. It will get us closer to war with Iran, something that Donald Trump has personally shown a flagrant disregard for in the past. I'm not just talking about the extrajudicial assassination of Qasem Soleimani, a revered Iranian general. I'm not just talking about pulling us out of the Iran nuclear deal. I'm not just talking about John Bolton. I'm talking about surrounding himself at every level with ideologues who want war with Iran, who want us to escalate with Iran. Okay. And on top of that, they want us to escalate with China and Russia too. It's crazy what we're going to watch over the next 4 years. And on top of that, yes, we'll have a more cruel border policy. We're going to start seeing less visas renewed for individuals. Let's talk about that. People who are in this country legally soon won't be allowed to. And yet you want people singing some happy song about how this billionaire might do something nice around the edges that will never trickle down to them. It's crazy. That's not the home of progressives. That's something that, I got burned telling my audience that MAGA was going to be super populist. And now I have to make content, winning them over. And so that's essentially where Cenk has jumped to. And I'll pass the baton to Gavin because I see he has something to say. But I imagine if I lied constantly to my audience in like a Tim Pool fashion and swore up and down that Trump was going to be a renegade and this time he was going to be able to actually accomplish what he wanted, and now it's clear as day he's not going to. This is the kind of hopium I would be selling my audience. I wouldn't be giving it to a clear-eyed progressive audience who wants to resist and reassemble.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like, obviously I can understand the desire to have hope. We all want to have hope. I hope that Trump is better than I've been predicting he will be. I certainly do. I live in this country too. We're all on this plane. Trump is the freaking pilot. Yeah, I hope it doesn't crash. Of course I don't want it to crash. I don't want to die. I don't want to live under fascism. So I sympathize with that instinct. But Cenk, you're a political commentator. It's your job to be honest, not to like rally the troops before a football game and give them some like false hope or something. Like, that's not your job, bro. I get that that might be easier on you psychologically, or might be easier on any given American psychologically. I actually genuinely believe it's part of the reason why so many people have taken the red pill, because it's easier to be part of the winning team. It's easier to feel like the aggressor than the victim. You know what I'm saying? And I think Cenk is embodying that here. But you're right. When he's actually put up in a corner with his back against the wall, he can't actually defend this position. It's all working backwards from your conclusion. Like you said, he's already here, so now he has to justify it. But it's all falling apart, as you guys are about to see.
Yep, it's post hoc ergo proctor hoc, if you want to be real fancy with it.
About the possibility, even as, again, I'm all for a good horseshoe. If there's an issue, Bernie Sanders has done this also, working with, I think, Josh Hawley on stimulus checks. Like, do it. Great. Get what you can. But also, like I said before, I think what's likely to happen, the most likely outcome is just things are going to get overall worse. And that's kind of where I am.
Look, I don't know how many times I can repeat it before people believe me. I know Donald Trump has done terrible things in the past. That's why I fought tooth and nail against them in all of the elections. Right? Yeah. I know what is more likely. I know how awful the Republicans have been in the past.
Right.
Okay, the only point of disagreement is I think some of those right-wing voters are not as horrific as you think they are.
Oh, I don't think the voters are horrific. I don't think that at all. I think that there is no track record of them, constraining Donald Trump, holding him to account. He has become the central figure in the Republican Party. And, however he wants to spin things, whatever case he...
And also, that's so true. In fact, I think the only MAGA fan, the only Trump supporter from the first time around that actually did hold him to account, it's Ann Coulter.
Bro,
Ann Coulter, the only person that was like, hey, I actually signed up for this agenda and I'm pissed when it didn't happen. Like, I actually was about MAGA. I was about Trumpism. And then you betrayed us all, and I'm not going to fall for your shit again. Ann Coulter is pretty much the only person in right-wing media that's principled in that regard. I have no respect for her otherwise, but you have to, point that out. But Krystal's totally right. None of these idiots, none of these sycophants, not Joe Rogan, not any of them, none of them are going to stand up to Trump. None of them are going to call him out when it matters. They have no history of doing so. They're not interested in that. They don't actually care about policy or substance or anything serious. It's all just, I want to be close to the guy in power.
Not only that, but it's absolute lunacy to try and be like, oh, Krystal, stop voter shaming. Like, I just have a higher opinion of voters than you. One of the consistent criticisms that Krystal has taken from more Democratic Party type folks is that she doesn't disrespect the voters of America, that she doesn't call MAGA supporters racist, even when I would, right? Even when I am like, Krystal, start calling that guy a fucking racist to his face, please, God damn it. She's like, I know, I want to respect people, because that's the kind of person she is, right? She wants to see the best in people. That's more her role in all of this. But she's taken flack from people, in her general political sphere for not being more caustic towards voters, for being so, committed to,
she does a whole show with the MAGA dude.
Exactly. She's like, I reject this idea of a basket of deplorables. I see hurt people. She talks about how she grew up in like fucking Virginia, and she knows people who have been impacted by the harsh realities of things like NAFTA and, Donald Trump's new NAFTA, the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, right? All of that shit. She talks about it. She waxes very well about it. And to pretend that she's somehow like, a Pod Save America type voter shamer, or even a Vanguard type voter shamer. We don't shame the voters, but we will amorphously talk about how stupid some motherfuckers are. You know what I'm saying?
And guess what? You know what? I'm going to say something controversial, Zach, but I did take Cenk's approach more in 2016. I was less excited or ready to voter shame anyone, because I understood Hillary Clinton, such a terrible candidate, and Donald Trump was promising actual change. But guess what, guys? Not that I, I still try my best to understand people, but I definitely have a lot less respect for anyone that voted for Donald Trump this time around. I do. Why? Because we already lived through 4 years of this dude, and he completely failed to make America great again. He totally showed himself to be the con man that he was, and he didn't live up to any of the things he promised, whether it was to be an anti-war president, to be an anti-outsourcing president. None of the shit that was even appealing about him in the first place did he live up to in the first place? So if you're still someone who's stupid enough to get conned by someone, what's the expression? For second time you're
Fool me once.
fool me once.
Time, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you.
Exactly,
Fool me
it's
three
like,
times, fuck the peace sign, load the
I
chopper,
get-
let it rain on you.
I get being tricked by Donald Trump. I also, America first, like I said, it's a compelling message. I don't think our tax dollars should go to Ukraine and Israel. I think they should go to Main Street, and I think that we should bring jobs home. Yeah, for sure. Sign me up. But that didn't fucking happen the last time around. It didn't even come close to happening. Trump made America worse. He did not make America great again in any way. As Kyle constantly points out, more jobs were outsourced overseas under Donald Trump. Free speech got worse under Donald Trump.
More
Look how he
bombs were
treated
dropped.
protesters under Donald Trump. As Zach said, the military budget increased year after year after year. And then these fucking people, these American people, they want to come, I think let's give him a shot. Some of his rhetoric sounds kind of nice. I want to shake things up. I just think he's anti-establishment. Bitch, we already saw how he acted. Not only was he not anti-establishment, he tried to become a fucking dictator when he lost. And you think that's okay to send that guy back to and now you want to talk about how much respect you have for MAGA voters? And they just really care about defeating the establishment. Trump is the establishment. Trump is literally the establishment of the Republican Party. And now he's handed over the keys to the world's richest man, an oligarch.
100%.
He wants to make. What I have seen is people consistently, even in this era, even with new parts of the coalition, et cetera, I have seen them fall in line. And that's where the RFK Jr. and the Tulsi example comes in.
I get it. So if I said to you, who is more likely to cut the Pentagon? Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or Donald Trump?
None.
Okay.
I mean, Donald Trump increased the defense budget every year that he was in office.
Of course, and he bragged about it.
Yes.
Okay. So I agree that none of them are likely to cut it. But with Trump, because of his right-wing base and his desire for popularity, I have it at possible. With Biden and Harris, it had a 0% chance because they work for the goddamn donors. They would never cut the military.
But so does Trump.
Yeah.
Cenk,
so look,
he went to oil executives and was like, give me $1 billion and I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Crystal, you don't have to convince me of that.
Totally flipped on crypto.
Crypto's going to be a disaster. You don't have to convince me of that. But let me see if I can break through one last time.
Okay.
So if Biden said, if Kamala Harris had won and she developed a conscience, which is nearly impossible, and said, you know what, this Pentagon is bloated. Look at all this fraud and abuse. They can't find $400 billion. That's it. I'm cutting $200 billion from the Pentagon. Even if she had done that, which had a 0% chance, the Democrats would have stopped her. Not just the Republicans, but the Democrats would have found a way to stop her and not allow her to cut the Pentagon. So there was no black hole of hope.
We just showed you guys a picture from like yesterday, 2 days ago, of Donald Trump with Lindsey Graham and Sarah Netanyahu, wife of Benjamin Netanyahu. Lindsey Graham has proposed a United Arab Emirates Saudi-led government in Gaza. That's the kind of thought process. That's basically destroy everything and then renegotiate with Israel after it's over. Or better yet, that probably just agree to let Israel take everything over. Okay, that's the conversation they're having over lunch. How many Palestinians have to die? And Sarah Netanyahu's like, they must all be killed. We must kill them all. And Netanyahu's like, I understand your pain. Yes, it's a very good position. Maybe we do have to kill them all. Maybe we have to kill them all. And and then he's gonna go back to his office and he's gonna say, well, we've heard from many people. We've heard from lots and lots of folks. I think we're gonna do business as usual until I get a few more phone calls from people who make phone calls to me. That's how our foreign policy is gonna be done.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
And not allow her to cut the Pentagon. So there was no hope at all, a black hole of hope. Okay. With Trump, if the Republicans go to stop him, if he goes to cut the Pentagon, they won't be able to. If Mitch McConnell goes and Rick Scott goes, you won't cut the Pentagon. Trump will be like, what did you say, bitch? Okay. I mean, Mitch. Okay, right? And Mitch McConnell will be like, I'm so sorry. We're cutting the Pentagon. Everybody, we're cutting the Pentagon. Because Trump has them.
This is so fucking stupid. Again, one of the most notable elements of the first Trump administration is what a bitch he was to the deep state. Are you kidding me, Cenk? He's acting like he's going to boss around Mitch McConnell and force them to cut the Pentagon budget. Are you kidding me, dude? There's so many stories and anecdotes from the first Trump administration where Trump literally would give orders to the general or like, tweet some foreign policy shit, like, say some bold declaration of something that we're going to do. And then the generals would literally just ignore him. They'd say, okay, yeah, we'll do that, Mr. Trump. And then they went back into their fucking offices and did the opposite over and over and over again because they realized how stupid he was. They realized that they could just easily manipulate him and that he doesn't actually have any core ideology or any policy goals because he doesn't actually care about anything other than attention. He's a narcissist. As I think Krystal, or maybe it was even Cenk earlier in this interview, pointed out, before he even ran for president in 2015, he didn't even know what he was going to run on. He went on a tour of media trying to figure out what the best issues to lean into would be, and he ultimately decided on immigration, but he doesn't actually care about anything. He doesn't have an ideology. He doesn't have an agenda that he's going to fight to get through. It's just going to be outsourced to his friends, to whoever's wealthy, and whoever has his fucking phone number or is on Fox News. So that's who's actually going to get stuff done. But no, Donald Trump's not going to go in there and battle the deep state on cutting the military budget. Like I said, one of the most defining aspects of his first term was getting rolled by the deep state over and over and over and over again. He couldn't get anything done.
He didn't even release the JFK files. He didn't even release the JFK files when 50, 60 years ago this shit happened.
And Mitch McConnell was like, oh, I'm so sorry. We're cutting the Pentagon. Everybody, we're cutting the Pentagon. Because Trump has them bullied. That is another advantage of Trump, that he could bully the establishment,
So
the
his
grotesque establishment.
So
that
his
has led
sort
to
of
all
authoritarian
these evils.
tendencies,
Jiu-jitsu.
end up being a benefit. It's your position. We will see. I do want to just quickly, because we've already gone on a long time. I don't want to keep you too long. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Elon thing, and we can put up the Bernie Sanders tweet. You would like reach out to Elon, like, hey, I'll help you cut the Pentagon budget if you're serious about this. Bernie Sanders says something similar. Elon Musk is right. The Pentagon just failed its 7th audit. That must change, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I would like to see the Pentagon's budget cut. I will tell you, like I said, I am all for working with the elected representatives, as Bernie has done in the past with Josh Hawley and others on areas of agreement. Totally fine with. Maybe my core litmus test, and you and I were talking about this before, like if I was to design the Democratic Party from scratch, the litmus test would all be around economics, and there would be a larger tent around cultural issues, even as I, personally have mostly lefty issues on positions on cultural issues. But pretty core litmus test for me is we shouldn't be allowing unelected billionaires to effectively run the government. And so on this particular issue, I do come down in a different place than you, because I think this project of giving Elon Musk, richest man on the planet, one of the Pentagon's largest contractors, who's embroiled in all sorts of regulatory disputes around labor violations and environmental degradation and SEC violations, giving him carte blanche to remake the government however he wants to, like just out of principle, I think that's a project overall that should be opposed.
Yeah, so totally agree, but that's not where we are. So let's talk about the agreement, and then let's talk about what to do going forward.
Okay.
So this is what I told Republicans and the right-wing voters.
Ask me if chat. Tell me if I'm overreacting. But does he just not sound like an arrogant prick when he says shit like this? Does he not sound condescending as fuck, like he's talking to somebody that he doesn't respect as much as he respects himself? Like, am I crazy for drawing that conclusion? Am I being overly sensitive about my girl Krystal over here?
No, I think you're right. He's coming off like an idiot. Obviously, he's being manhandled by a crystal ball, and the only reason it's not totally obvious that that's what happened is because Cenk is an experienced broadcaster, but he's already lost this debate. He's already in over his head. He's already desperately swimming to find the surface, but he's fucked. He's done. It's over. Krystal exposed him. The rest of this is just going to be him petering out and eventually basically admitting that she's right.
Yeah. And the independents before the election. Look, Donald Trump openly brags about his corruption. He goes, I used to be against electric vehicles, but then Elon gave me a very strong endorsement.
Right.
So now I'm
so here we are. Yeah.
I'm like, you just admitted that you are the swamp, right? And so, and he brags about, Sheldon Adelson gave me a strong endorsement back in 2016 and 2020. That means $100 million in both races, right?
Yep.
So he said, so I moved the embassy for him. You just admitted that you gave U.S. foreign policy to a donor. And he's now done that with Miriam Adelson. He's saying, oh yeah, I'll start any war Israel wants because Miriam gave me $137 million.
Yep.
On TikTok, he was even more brazen. He was like, I was against TikTok, tried to get a ban, but Jeff Yass gave me a strong endorsement.
That's right. Crypto, same deal.
Yeah. And so now I'm for TikTok, right? So he admits his corruption in spectacular fashion. It's unbelievable. Would I allow Elon Musk in an ideal world to basically have power over at least half the government just because he's one of the top donors to Donald Trump?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want billionaire donors in charge of the government,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is clear and obvious. And I hope one day right-wing populists finally realize, oh, maybe billionaire donors aren't our friends.
What the fuck
Maybe
are you doing
they're
right now, you
rigging the rules
dumbass?
not to our benefit,
Can we
but
pause it one
to
more time?
their benefit, right?
Jeffrey Katzenberg, huh? Yeah, he invested. It would be crazy if he donated it. That's just a verbal slip up. Jeffrey Katzenberg invested $20 million into the Young Turks. His net worth is right around 1B. Right around 1B. So, apparently he wasn't too unhappy with that billionaire investment. At breaking points, last time I checked, oh yeah, they don't even read fucking advertisements. They didn't name their, arena crypto recording center or Polymarket Studios or whatever the hell they call it at the Young Turks. You know what I mean? That's you, Cenk. You're the guy that's standing on quicksand.
So I understand and stipulate to all that. But nevertheless, Trump won. And here's Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are going to be in charge
Both
of this.
Billionaires.
Yeah, who are going to be in charge of this department, whatever the hell this department is, which is really the whole government, right?
Right. That's right.
And so I say half the government, but it's not. It's the whole
Linked
government.
to a cryptocurrency.
And so how do I make the best of it? Well, we've always wanted to cut the Pentagon, right? So if they're looking to make cuts, I suggest the idea of cutting the Pentagon. Now, normally that's where it would end, especially if I said that to Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, they'd be like, get out of here, you loser, online media, populist loser.
They wouldn't
no
even
way,
notice.
no way,
Joe
right?
Biden doesn't know how to log into Twitter.
Yeah, so they'd be like, no way.
That's actually somehow makes them more respectable that they don't take advice from Cenk Uygur and blowhards on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't want the president or the freaking advisor to the president just fishing for suggestions on Twitter from any dumbass blowhard on YouTube. Are you kidding me, bro? Even though I agree with Cenk's suggestion, no, I want serious, qualified, intelligent people running the government. Sorry if that makes me an elitist. But no, I don't want to. I don't want a Twitter poll determining what happens with our foreign policy. Jesus Christ.
We just model it off of a old school click through, and typing, early stage video game where it's like, should we, move to the left or move to the right? Google, let's run a quick poll. No, obviously not. But I on the other hand, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing someone like Bernie Sanders appear on new media a little bit more. I would like to see him sit down with Krystal, at least once a quarter or something like that.
Oh no, I agree with independent media. But he's just talking about being replied to on Twitter.
100%.
Yeah. Would Biden never reply to me on Twitter? No.
Getting pat on the head like a dog.
Obvious. Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. Pat on the head. Do you remember, Zach? Around the beginning of the Biden administration, there was a couple stories about how the Biden people, the staffers, whatever you want to call them, they essentially neutralized the Sunrise Movement entirely. How? By liking their tweets. All these people high up in the Sunrise Movement, they got followed on Twitter by senior Biden administration people, and then those people started liking their tweets and sometimes replying, "Great idea. Well, we're looking into that. That's a great suggestion, Mr. Activist Man." And everyone in media, left-wing media, I think Cenk included, said, "You fucking marks. This is all it takes to pacify you, to make you put away your weapons of resistance against the establishment. You think Joe Biden's your friend because his fucking advisor liked your tweet? Well, that's what happened to you, Cenk. And now you want to gaslight everyone and act like, see, I guess the Republicans are easier to work with and they actually care about, getting things done."
It reminds me of the Peter Dow tweet where he's like, it seems like all of the people who follow me who are anti-war are MAGA. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's because you're allergic to critical thinking and you don't see the swamp you're swimming in right now. And you're on that right-wing platform that only boosts your tweet when you feed into MAGA, which is another great point that Gavin made the other day. Guys, Cenk is monetizing the rage bait because he's probably pissed off that he's not able to skim as much revenue off the top from the Young Turks, and he's looking for cash flow. He's looking for ways that he doesn't have to split it amongst his entire pie at the Young Turks, but just an independent way for him to have some liquid cash coming forward. I bet it's a couple grand a month. And I bet at Cenk's stage in his career right now, he needs that grand a month because I bet you he lives way larger than his means. I'm just psychoanalyzing. I'm armchair analyzing here, but I bet in 2018, that guy thought that he had the world by the balls and he overextended himself. Hey, we've all been there. I remember I signed the lease for an apartment and then lost my fucking ass on this podcast. Okay, we all been there. We bounced back. I get the vibe from him that he's desperate for views. He's desperate to smooth over his domestic life over at the Young Turks with his, co-host Anna Kasparian. She's also the producer. She's involved at an upper level. His longtime collaborator, I guess is probably a better way to put it. And now he's gasping, he's flailing, and he's kicking out. He's waiting for somebody to save him, but nobody's coming out with a life buoy.
Yup. 100%. It's all about the money. That's what we've been telling you guys. It's not about anything else. It's about the money. Maybe for Cenk, it's a little bit about the attention and the access. Maybe he genuinely does want to join the Mar-a-Lago circle of idiots or whatever. But yeah, it's about the money, guys. It's about the money. As Cenk himself would say, follow the money, idiot.
Oh, what the heck? Did you see the Village People singer denies YMCA is a gay anthem as he defends Trump's use of the song? He's only one of the Village People. The rest, I don't fuck with this guy anymore. Anyway.
Interesting.
He went the way of the Cenk Uygur. We already talked. What was it? Ezekiel 28 yesterday. Anyway, we'll get on.
Way they'd go and give a general a handy. That's and be like, oh no, don't worry, General, don't worry. Joe Biden's here to protect you, right? And so would Mitch McConnell. So would every dirtbag Republican, right? So, but here, Elon Musk and Donald Trump Jr. said maybe we do that, right? Maybe we do. Then I suggested a conflict of interest rule where the generals can't be go work for defense contractors afterwards, right? And why did Elon? This is the important part I'm trying to get through to you guys.
Yeah.
Why did Elon and Donald Trump Jr. go, all right, Cenk, attaboy? Not a thing they would normally say.
Because they like saying, even lefty Cenk Uygur agrees with the Department of Government Efficiency. That's why.
Where did you guys hear that first?
I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's part of their motivation.
Yeah.
But the
Cenk Uygur. I apologize, but this is exactly what I have been screaming, and God bless Krystal Ball for, saying what I have been saying so that it has merit and credence and people take it seriously. Not that she's saying it because I said it. God, I would never suggest that, but we happen to be singing the same song miraculously. And yeah, I have been coming at Bernie for a long time for this. Gavin, you did a good job playing devil's advocate, and you made some fair points to come to the old man's defense, but I said, who is going to tell these guys bipartisan politics doesn't exist? And I don't want to hear shit about Republicans being anti-war when not a single one of them had the balls to block the most recent sale to Israel just 2 weeks ago. Dave Weigel seems like a good guy. Don't really know him. Sanders keeps daring Trump to actually do something populist that ours will probably kill in the crib. Credit card fee cap slashing defense budget, and the coverage is like Bernie goes MAGA. I said, this is why it's a bad move, in my opinion. He is attempting a gotcha, which MAGA is immune to, and in reality laundering their reputation as unserious baboons. Pretty obvious to me the whole time, and I'm glad to see that Krystal Ball has taken up arms with me.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Krystal does a great job shutting this down, so we're going to let her, do that here in a second. But it's so true, and you are 100% right about that, Zach. There's really no point ever in like giving credit to someone as evil as Donald Trump or Elon Musk, even if you think you're being sneaky, like, oh, I'm going to give them credit, but it's actually to prove my point. No, like there's a reason why we don't come out here and say, disagreements aside, David Duke kind of right about the bankers. Right,
there are a lot of similar folks up there.
Nick Fuentes, I don't agree with them on a lot, but the financial institutions are corrupt. He is onto something. Like, that's not a good way to go about making your point, because all it does is feed in to the points that these insidious actors are already making, right? You don't have to start by giving them credit. You know what I mean? It's just a stupid way to go about it, specifically when we have someone who's about to be president. Obviously, Nick Fuentes, David Duke, these are just loser commentators, influencers, whatever you want to talk about. So even that would not be as offensive as what Cenk is doing. Cenk is literally manufacturing consent for people to support some of the worst, most authoritarian and basic measures that basically amount to austerity measures from the Trump administration with this Doge stuff. He's giving permission for people to go down that road. And that's why his replies are filled with MAGA people and Elon fans. There's no lefties in there saying, you know what, this is an interesting strategy. No, it's all people on the right saying, thank you, Cenk, for agreeing with us finally. Thank you, even Cenk, the noted leftist, even Cenk and Anna, the most, stereotypical examples of a progressive 4 years ago. Even they're on our side now. That's all it does.
Yeah, it's exactly what Dave Rubin did for popularity. But anyway, let's hear from Krystal because this is getting good.
Not a thing they would normally say.
Because they like saying, even lefty Cenk Uygur agrees with the Department of Government Efficiency. That's why.
So, Krystal, I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's part of their motivation.
Yeah.
But the main motivation was not that. The main motivation is because on X, they could see all of their base going, yes, 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 yes.
Because their base also likes even lefty Cenk Uygur is on board with the Department of Government Efficiency. Like, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where Bernie's coming from of like, listen, this is the world and we have to deal with it and we're going to get what we can get. If you're talking about an elected representative, I am 100% on board with all of that. With this specific project, I think it's dangerous to normalize giving billionaires this level of control over the government. And your willingness to engage with it, which again, I understand where you're coming from. I'm not saying like you're bad or evil or like whatever for doing it. But I think this level of engagement gives this project of total billionaire control over the federal government a sense of bipartisan legitimacy and creates the appearance that genuinely beneficial things are going to come out of it, when I do not think that genuinely beneficial things are going to come out of it overall, even if there are things that they cut that you and I would both be like, okay, that's fine that they cut that. Because look, Elon Musk,
they won't even do that.
He is himself one of the largest Pentagon contractors. He has all of these massive conflicts of interest. This is a project like any, normal like Koch brothers type right-wing project to strip the capability of the government.
He's not the single largest beneficiary of government contracts as a corporation, but because of his large amount of equity in SpaceX and because of the amount of government contracts that go through SpaceX and his, unique payout, again, the balloon that just got rejected was $52 billion. He might actually be the individual who receives the most money from the government, from military contractors as an individual. It would be a short list of him in the higher ups at like Halliburton and Raytheon, but he would be in close proximity. And I believe because he has, again, so much ownership in SpaceX, he actually is the single highest recipient of government financing, which would make him the wealthiest person based off socialism.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a real welfare queen for you, Elon Musk. But yeah, this is a great way that Krystal rebuts his argument.
He has all of these massive conflicts of interest. This is a project like any, normal like Koch brothers type right-wing project.
And I think that's such an important point too, because all these people, Cenk included, they want to act like we're in some new era. I think at one point in this debate, Cenk literally says, this is a new Republican Party. This isn't the Republican Party of your dad. It's not even the Republican Party of your older brother. And it's like, yes, it is. It 100% is. What Krystal said about this Department of Doge crap is 100% right. It's no different than any other Koch brother funded austerity measure or austerity agenda of the past. It just has a sexy new rebrand with memes and Elon Musk and, right-wing populism and all this crap. But no, it's nothing new. It's the same shit. It's George Bush 2.0. And that's the thing that I feel like we all need to reckon with, guys, on the left and on the right. We're basically back in the Bush era. Welcome back to 2004, guys. That's where we are. That's the same Republican Party we're dealing with for all intents and purposes. Maybe the Democrats are a little bit worse now, but yeah, it's the same party, guys. And it's going to be tax cuts. It's going to be war in the Middle East. It's going to be handouts to Israel. And it's going to be austerity, poor people getting fucked. That's what's going to happen. Get ready for it. There's nothing to be optimistic about except for 2028 when we can potentially shake this fucking flea off of our country, right? But yeah, that's what we're in for, guys. Bush's second term. Get ready. I hope you're excited for the populism.
100%. And it reminds me of the conversation we had with Sam Cedar, Gavin, where you talked about how you were watching the 2004 Democratic National Convention, and you were talking about how if you compare it to Kamala's convention, it's remarkably similar, right? And of course, what did we see? We saw John Kerry saying, I'm going to do the Iraq war, but I'm going to do it better and more just. That's exactly the same thing that we've seen from both the Democrats. So it's hard to even argue that the Democrats have run to the right. They've just changed and become more favorable on Wall Street.
Yep, 100%, 100%. And now they're also seemingly almost just as pro-war. They don't even resist the war in the Middle East. They participate and fund and enable it. But yeah, the Overton window is just, completely in the trash.
Yeah,
but
thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
To strip the capability of the government so that it's less able to regulate and constrain robber barons like Elon Musk or any other of the billionaire class that has rigged the economy. And so that's why in this specific instance, I think it's more important to just oppose the project outright and try to explain to people why this is a really pernicious development in our nation's history versus giving it some credibility by being like, oh, look, they might do some good things and they might work with me on this or that proposal.
So totally agree, totally disagree.
Okay.
The part I agree on is, yeah, it's a pernicious project. I don't want to validate billionaires running the government, donors running the government. That was the problem with the establishment in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, Elon Musk has enormous conflicts of interest, not just with the Pentagon. He wants to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Why? Because they're the cops on Wall Street.
And the NLRB.
And why do they want to get rid of that? Because it serves his billionaire interests, right? So I'm trying to, I hope to God, I know it's a tough task.
Yeah.
But get the right-wing populists to
Literally
realize
10 minutes
he's
ago,
another donor. Wake
in
up.
this conversation, you were telling us that it didn't matter if Lena Khan was in charge or not, that you were sweeping it under the rug. You were saying that, oh, who really cares? And now you said it perfectly, Gavin. He realized he's cooked, and he's such a professional broadcaster that he's just going to try and pretend that he agreed with Krystal all along, even though he's now arguing against the points he was making 20 minutes ago. And what's so glorious about the way that Krystal conducts this is she starts it off by saying, I know we're on the same page and I know we agree on everything, that so that she can coach him through all of the mistakes he's making. And then at the end, he agrees with her and she's like, yep, I'm glad we're on the same page. You've now accepted and regurgitated all of my correct arguments.
Yep. Also, hero of the God, I don't know what you were doing during the Bush administration, but it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying. And not even just from the perspective of the Muslim and Arab American community, for whom I imagine it was specifically horrifying. But yeah, I mean, and I'm not even denying that Trump might be worse either. I'm not denying that he could be worse than Bush, but yeah, let's not minimize how terrible that era was. Easily. He actually pulled off stealing an election, unlike Donald Trump.
True.
Get the right-wing populists to realize he's another donor. Wake up. He's a donor. And he wants to get rid of the cops that are regulating him.
That's right.
And so
he wants to defund the police.
Yeah.
Just the white collar police.
That's literally the analogy I use. He wants to defund the police on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Right. And so and some people online think, oh, Cenk, are you going to call him out on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Of course. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau saves $20 for every dollar we spend on it. They get back $20 billion for every $1 billion we spend. But not only that, the $20 billion is money that the bankers stole from us, right? And they admit that they stole it, and that's why they pay those fines, et cetera. So it's actually the best part of the government. I agree with all of that. But they are in charge. We did lose. So like on immigration, I agree with you. They're going to do some awful things on immigration that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But the voters did kind of vote for that. Okay.
No,
and we have to be cognizant of that.
No,
right.
I know.
But the voters didn't vote for a giant war in the Middle East. They didn't. They voted against that, not for that. Right. The voters did vote against corruption at large. Yeah, maybe they got misdirected by Trump. Right. But they still hate corruption at their core. So if you can make them see the corruption. Now, in the midst of all of that, though, if you say me, Ro Khanna, and Bernie Sanders shouldn't legitimize this and instead should go, hey, you know what? Cut Medicare and Medicaid first. Don't worry about.
First of all, don't put yourself in the same category as Bernie and Ro Khanna. You're not part of the squad, motherfucker. You're not in the Congress. Bernie and Ro Khanna, you can disagree with their strategy as it relates to this, but I think it's far more defensible because they actually are people in elected offices. They have power. They do have influences. They do have influence. They're not just influencers. Cenk is an online influencer. He's a tweeter and a YouTuber. It's not the same thing, bro. And Bernie and Ro Khanna aren't doing what they're doing in order to like increase the amount of attention they're getting or the amount of views they're getting on YouTube. They're doing it because they actually think there might be a prayer of it succeeding. Cenk is 100% just doing this to pander to MAGA, to get those 60,000 retweets on the new Elon Musk Twitter. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about for him. But he wants to pretend like, oh yeah, I'm in the trenches. Me and Ro, me and Bernie. Yeah, shut up.
The Pentagon. Don't worry about the conflicts of interest. Don't worry about cutting the Pentagon. Cut the best parts of the budget first. No.
I guess where you and I disagree is I just do not believe that they actually are serious about like any positive like I don't believe they're going to cut the Pentagon, period. And so that I think that may be partly why I come down in a different place, but also my position really is that with this particular project, because it is so pernicious to just give carte blanche to a group of billionaires with massive conflicts of interest, like some of the largest conflicts of interest you can imagine, I think to me the most important approach to that is just to oppose it. But I understand where I get where you're coming from, Cenk.
Can I want to address something to those?
Yeah,
Can I?
sure.
This mic.
And thank you, Krystal. That's so true. Yeah. Again, Cenk, your role is to be a watchdog. You're in the media. You're not an insider. No one wants to see you at Mar-a-Lago whining and dining Donald Trump to try to get on his good side so that maybe 2 years from now, the people will get a win. That's some trickle-down logic, motherfucker. No, your role is to call their bullshit out. You're a member of the media. You're a political commentator. You're supposed to speak truth to power. That's the point, bro. That'd be like imagine on the onset of the invasion of Iraq, if we're sitting here like, in theory, I propose this, but let's see where it goes. Maybe it'll result in a new world order that's actually beneficial for the people of the Middle East. Who knows, man? Maybe the Iraqis will actually appreciate the situation after all is said and done. You never know. Let's see what happens, bro. No, the correct response to the Iraq war was to oppose it and was to educate people about where their taxpayers was going to go and the slaughter that was going to occur on their dime. That's what the fuck your role was if you were an honest member of the left-wing media, not to manufacture consent for it. And that's what Cenk is doing for Doge and for Trumpism in general at this point. Why? For attention and money. And if you guys don't want to face the reality of the situation, like, I don't judge you. I think they have those websites that only tells you good news. Those websites where it's like today's positive news, and it'll tell you a bunch of stories to make you feel good about how like somewhere in Africa, some rich guy donated $1 million and now they have a school there. And like, that's all you hear about. That's fine. Do it. You'll probably be happier. You'll probably be better off than Zach and I over here frying our brains with, insanely negative, depressing stuff all day. We get it. But again, that's not the role that Cenk plays. TYT is not one of those feel good outlets. Yeah, that's not the point. You're supposed to speak truth to power, Cenk. That's why I originally became a fan of the Young Turks in the first place. And by the way, that never involved doing propaganda for the Democrats. Cenk likes to do the straw man where he's like, what do you want me to defend the Democrats? What do you want me to, give Joe Biden more credit than his No one is asking for you to do that. All we're doing is asking for you to not pander to MAGA and give them credit when you refuse to give Democrats credit. It's pretty simple, but
he's basically pivoting into being the Steven Pinker of like political commentary. If you guys don't know, Steven Pinker is like this historian kind of a guy, scientist that talks about how the world's getting better all the time, actually, how none of the bad shit that people talk about are actually happening. We're actually getting more and more people medicine every year. More and more people have electricity every year. It's the same thing. It's just like framing all of the natural disasters that are happening around us as irrelevant and focusing on the success stories of modern capitalism.
Yeah, 100%.
I get where you're coming from, Cenk.
Can I want to address something to those?
Yeah,
Can I?
sure.
Is this my camera here? Okay, yeah. So right-wing populists, it is now your job to prove Krystal wrong.
Go out and do it, y'all.
So she doesn't believe you. And by the way, almost no one on the left, other than me and Anna, believe you guys that you actually want to cut the Pentagon.
You guys are
and that
humiliating.
you could pressure Elon Musk and Donald Trump to cut the Pentagon. So are you going to prove the left wrong? Or are you going to prove them spectacularly right? Am I going to have to come on here and apologize to Krystal for ever believing in any right-wing populist and say, oh, I was a sucker. Those guys were liars. All they want to do was increase the Pentagon, have more wars, more corruption, and they never held Trump accountable. We waited 4 long years for them to hold him accountable, and all they did was kiss his ass and show that they don't really believe in freedom. They said all this stuff about freedom, but they never meant it. They said all this stuff about drain the swamp, but they never meant it. They said all this anti-war stuff, but they never meant it. We're going to come back on here in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, and we're going to keep doing a check. So if right-wing populists
Look how he invites himself back
frauds,
on the show.
I'm going to say, Krystal, you were right. There were frauds all along. Okay.
Well,
but I don't think so. I think they actually mean it.
Let me just say, we already have some examples. So I'll give you one, and then we can wrap things. I'll give you the final word, and we can wrap things up here. But RFK Jr. put in at HHS, or nominated to be put in at HHS, talking a big game about getting bad stuff out of the food system. I agree with you. Agree with that. Taking on big ag, etc. Trump just put in at the FDA for the USDA and at the FDA a Brooke Rollins, who's a total corporate big ag. She'll be ag secretary, big ag shill. Now RFK had come with a list of here's who I want to help me in my project, and he's like, no, I'm going to go with the lady who's going to be friendly to big ag interests. Have you heard a word? Have you heard RFK Jr. come out? Have you heard any of his followers come out and be like, oh my God, they're going back on Maha already? No,
he's eating a fucking cheeseburger on Air Force One.
I am highly skeptical that you're going to see any level of expectant, consistent adherence to principle and holding of account of Donald Trump, because I just have never seen that before. Remember, before he ran in 2016, he said he was going to give everybody health care, and then he didn't, and everyone was just like, yeah,
that's a great point. Cenk's acting like, there's all these new reasons to be optimistic because there's all these new lies to believe. What about the lies last time, motherfucker? Why are you assuming that now this dude who's 8 years older almost than he was when he took office the first time, and how much more corrupt? So we now got an older, more corrupt, even more criminal Donald Trump than last time. But trust me, this time we should actually, for some reason, instead of resisting him, instead of standing up for the values that we all claim to care about 2 months ago, instead of that, let's just roll over and hope for the best. What the fuck kind of message is that? Cenk literally said, regardless of who wins this election, Kamala or Trump, I can't wait to lead the populist revolt against the future administration, because we all know it's going to be fucked. And now he's over here gaslighting everyone while also simultaneously admitting that Krystal's totally correct about everything. That's the worst part about this. Cenk's not quite shameless enough to just go full MAGA. So he has to agree with Krystal in every other sentence, but then also somehow try to salvage his argument in the most desperate, pathetic way every time. Because he doesn't want to actually sacrifice his newfound popularity with all these right-wing idiots that now love him and adore his ability to be totally shameless.
100%.
Fine. So I see no indication that it will be at all different this time around. And I see a lot of indications that it will actually be worse, because he will be more unchained and given more freedom to pursue his absolute worst and most authoritarian instincts, thanks to the Supreme Court's decision and the effort that was engaged in the offseason to get the most ideological sycophants put into positions of power and to bring everybody to heel this time around.
Yeah. I see the same indications you do of the bad impulses.
Yeah.
But I see an indication of good impulses from the right-wing voters that you do not see.
And you're blinded by your
own for example, on Team Israel, Rubio, Stefanik, etc.
Nefarious. I just think they're busy. They're busy, and they've decided to trust this guy, and they're just going to trust this guy.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I think you're wrong. What I have seen is they don't like Team Israel, because Team Israel is Team War, Team Neocon, etc.
That's just not what the polling suggests.
And so
most Republicans are Team Israel.
Okay, all right, let's find out.
Republican base.
We're gonna.
Really quickly, right there, just showing that. Oh, sorry, Gavin. We can, but just again, reminding everybody, this was 2 days ago. Oh, Republican bases and team. Did you guys hear a bunch of outrage from MAGA? Gavin, did I miss it? Was I asleep at the wheel? Has Donald Trump's approval rating been collapsing?
The only thing you miss that the Republicans are saying is, "Oh, Donald Trump is controlled by the Jews." That's the only faction of MAGA that's anti-Israel. I hate to break it to you, Cenk.
True. Yeah, you know, and it was so great the point you made earlier, like Jake relating to, you know, trying to launder all of these viewpoints. It would be like if we came out here and we were like, guys, we're about to expose the new world order, this cabal, quiet cabal of individuals that are puppeteering the market. And then we, you know, click and we get all these anti-Semites and Dan Bilzerian fucks in here. And we're like, it's the 1%. You know, it's not Jews. It's the amorphous secular 1% banking class. Ha ha, fooled you. Like, no, that would still validate and, you know, contribute to hateful rhetoric that would, out of our context, just embolden these people. Right. And that's a really hyperbolic and stupid example. But you guys get where I'm going.
It's basically the same thing, though. It basically is. Yeah, let's agree with Nick Fuentes and Jake Shields and all these Nazis so that we can then maybe harness that energy and redirect it in a positive way. Like, that's a retard. That's stupid. Don't, like, there's no reason to go about things that way unless you're a political commentator / businessman who wants to grow the business. And guess what? A lot of dumbass people are on the right. In fact, there's a lot more of them than are on the left. It's a big pool of potential, you know, customers. But this is almost over, guys.
Etc.
That's just not what the polling suggests.
And so
most Republicans are Team Israel.
Okay. All right. Let's find out.
Republican base.
We're going to find out.
If you look at the polling, Democrats overwhelmingly were in favor of a ceasefire and
also, sorry, but even if it's true that the majority of MAGA is anti-Israel, even if that was true, even if the majority of them are anti-war, guess what? That makes Trump even worse because he's taking advantage of all these people. He's lying to them. We all know what's going to happen under Trump as it relates to Israel. So even if Cenk is right that his base is super America first and they really don't like our money going to Israel, well, that just makes Trump an asshole who took advantage of a bunch of people who actually care about something legitimate.
In favor of an arms embargo. Republicans are, I think, in favor of a ceasefire, but they are not in favor of an arms embargo. They are much more favorable as a group. There are some exceptions, but as a group towards Israel. And so anyway, I don't want to belabor that point in particular because I know you're making a broader point about a variety of issues.
And on Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, I've seen pushback on that. I've seen pushback on some nominees that I've never seen among Republicans before. So, and maybe that pushback is a mirage. And I'm not expecting it right out of the gate. Don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting right-wing populists to rise up and go, Kash Patel is a lunatic and we're not in favor of him.
No, they love him.
Yeah, they love him. I get it. I get that. So those are the bad impulses. I see it. I'm not unaware of it. But I'm also seeing actual anti-corruption, anti-war impulses. And I would rather feed those good impulses than to say, we hate you all.
What's crazy is that he'll point out and he'll say like, oh, well, Donald Trump doesn't want to do it and Kamala doesn't want to do it. But look at the bases. The bases want it. I can show you a poll that say a vast majority of Democrats want things like universal health care. They want things like, a ceasefire in Gaza. They want mass public transit. They want a way more eco-efficient policy top down. Did Biden give us any of that shit? No.
I never want to talk to you guys. I don't trust you, and I think you're only going to do evil in the world. I don't think that's productive.
I
also don't think it's true.
I just want to say, just to make it really clear, when I'm being critical, I'm being critical of the
We know,
elites,
Krystal. Don't let him gaslight you.
The Elon Musk, the Vivek Ramaswamis. This is not meant to slime, everybody who voted for it. And that's something I've really tried to be consistent about throughout the Trump era. And, something Sagar and I have really tried to engage with.
Let him fuck
I'm
with
just, I think what we've seen in the past is likely to be what we see in the future.
So let's see if the right-wing bros, the right-wing populists, the Rogans of the world, if they have any integrity at all, we're going to find out, right? And are they going to hold Trump accountable? Or are you right and the rest of the left right that they're not going to hold him accountable at all? And they're going to let him be a runaway freight train of disaster.
Rogan is supposedly going to go do some shows in Mar-a-Lago, so we'll see if he asks any challenging questions about the principles there. But we may find out pretty quickly here, Cenk.
Okay, so last thing I'll say on the Democrats.
Oh my God, Cenk, shut up!
And also, even if he's right that there's going to be a populist revolt and all of these commentators, YouTubers,
comedians,
all these comedians like Joe, they're all going to turn on Trump. Trump's not going to give a fuck. All Trump cares about is loyalty. As soon as any of these people publicly criticize him, it's over. They're gone. It's done. He doesn't respect any of their
Banish it.
opinions.
Yeah.
He doesn't respect anyone's opinion unless you're literally the only time he'll respect your opinion is if you're like more famous than him. Like if you're Kim Kardashian or something. That's why he pardoned Alice Johnson. You know what I'm saying? But no, that's not what's going to fucking happen. Joe Rogan is not going to lead the revolt against Donald Trump when everyone on the populist right realizes that he's full of shit. That's so fucking stupid. That might be the dumbest thing Cenk has ever said. Again, Cenk was trying to fight Joe Rogan 2 years ago. He was like, Joe
Over
Rogan,
trans issues.
yeah, over trans issues. He was like, Joe Rogan is such a sellout to the right, such a piece of shit, such a nefarious person that I got to fight this guy. Let's get in the ring, motherfucker. You want to talk about masculinity? I'll knock you out. That was Cenk's tune literally not that long ago, and now he wants you to believe that that guy is going to lead the populist revolt against Donald Trump. As soon as Donald Trump starts to fuck around, he's going to find out.
Yeah,
from Joe Rogan.
You guys can't hide shit from us. We've been doing this for too long. Gavin and I have every receipt. We made a video about this. Look it up if you're curious. Young Turks founder Cenk Uygur challenges Joe Rogan to a fight. Okay. It was mostly about his I think his anti-vax shit that was going on. But he says, to all the loser Joe Rogan fans crying over my attack on his freedom, hypocrisy, and stupidity, are you guys part of the crew, or do you kiss his ass for fun? I thought he was a big boy who could handle himself. If he doesn't like my free speech, he can grow a pair and defend himself. Uygur quickly offered to take the conflict offline, saying that he could beat Rogan, a longtime mixed martial arts hobbyist and commentator, in a fight, which is ludicrous. Joe Rogan, with one hand behind his back, could absolutely fuck up and mercilessly destroy Cenk Uygur, even with the 500-pound weight advantage. You think he's going to assault me? Sure, whatever. That's incredibly dumb, but also wouldn't work. I'm much larger than Joe and have fought my whole life. You don't understand, guys. As somebody who has very passively been involved with the martial arts world, you could tell for a fact Joe Rogan takes that shit way seriously, and he would fuck up Cenk Uygur in a heartbeat. But anyway, I just thought it was hilarious that now he's like the most cavalier guy. Oh, we can't offend anybody. Oh, we can't step on anyone's toes. It was like, oh, when Joe Rogan was talking about the vaccine and trans women at one stage, Cenk was ready to rough and tumble with him.
Yep, 100%.
Challenging questions
Well, he's
about
not
the
known for
principles
challenging
there.
questions,
So
but
we may find out pretty quickly here, Cenk.
Okay, so last thing I'll say on
Yes.
the Democrats.
Yes.
So you're right. The establishment is going to strike back, right? So if there's one takeaway from this, it's not from this whole conversation. It's not about Trump. It's not about the right-wing populists. It's that for Democrats, do not let your guard down. They're going to bring back Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg and all the corporate robots.
Absolutely.
Okay. We need, the only thing that could defeat right-wing populism is left-wing populism. Okay. Or we join
Cenk 2028, baby. The
This
only
time-
thing that can defeat Donald Trump, it's actually me. So
Cenk's actually considering inviting Joe Rogan to be his vice president. I think Joe would support somebody who has a clear vision for this country. It's either going to be Joe Rogan or RFK giving it a second shot. That'll be Cenk's running mate the next time around.
join forces on some issues. Great, wonderful, right? But if you go back the establishment route, that is a dead end. It has no, forget whether you're progressive or you're more conservative Democrat or more corporate Democrat, put that aside. They have no chance of winning. It's over. It's over. They're going to run into that brick wall 100 times.
Yep.
And Scarborough and the View are going to lie to you every time. Oh, you got to pick the corporate guy. The corporate guy is the one who's the only one who can win, right? Do not let them lie to you in that 2028 primary. It is imperative that we pick a populist left-winger in 2020.
Hey, remember in not like a month or so ago when Cenk was publicly demanding that Kamala Harris pick Josh Shapiro as her VP instead of Tim Walz and other potential more populist options? Cenk literally wrote an article for Newsweek saying that Kamala Harris should pick Josh Shapiro. But he's like, in 2028, they're going to try to hoist an establishment neoliberal Democrat on you. Don't fall for it. I may be there to manufacture consent for it, but don't believe me when I do. What? This guy is so over the top. And honestly, I think this article he wrote about Josh Shapiro and this entire moment that you guys might remember, a lot of people forgot about it, not us. We talked about it at length, where he tried to briefly manufacture consent for a Josh Shapiro pick from a progressive perspective, trying to gaslight us into thinking that Josh Shapiro was somehow the more progressive pick. I think that's actually a really interesting piece of evidence to look at as we talk about Cenk's entire evolution right now, because what it proves is that he doesn't actually have much of an ideology. He's kind of just becoming a contrarian. Like, yeah, no, obviously Josh Shapiro was not the progressive choice. Obviously, Cenk just wanted to have a hot take and write a Newsweek article. And guess what? Here's a hot take that's also kind of establishment propaganda. So that'll make it really easy to print in a paper like Newsweek, right? That's his strategy, but there's no actual coherence. There's no actual principle at the heart of any of these arguments, whether it's that one or these ones he's making now against Krystal. It's all about attention. It's all about money. He wants to be talked about. He wants to go on shows. He wants to be invited on Piers Morgan and wherever he can possibly get. That's what this is about. And oftentimes being a contrarian is just the easiest way to kind of whip up enough noise to get invited on shows and to get people retweeting you and to get trending, all this kind of stuff. But that's what it's all about for Cenk. He doesn't actually have a project anymore. He's just in it for himself.
And he has been for a while, Gavin. I was, kind of defending Elizabeth Warren the other day because there have been a lot of recent attacks on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And obviously we both agree that that's a really important institution of government. But Gavin, you often have brought up the fact that Cenk Uygur was totally willing to abandon Bernie in October of 2019. It was October of 2019, right? That was when she reached her highest. Maybe it was even before then. I remember a specific month where she just released her healthcare plan, and she was really gaining momentum. And Bernie had his heart attack, and he was really looking bad. And it took AOC endorsing him from the hospital and reigniting the movement. Cenk was perfectly happy abandoning ship. He's never been able to stick his neck out. He's never been willing to stick his neck out. This is a poll quote that he wrote from his Newsweek article Gavin just mentioned. He says, "I'm worried about writing this editorial for fear of tipping them, corporate Democrats, off. For all they know, Shapiro is an establishment Democrat, especially now that he's being accused by the left of being one of the least progressive Democrats because of his position on Israel. It's likely the donor class has no idea how progressive he might actually be." This is the type of shit that Pete Buttigieg would write. This is the kind of shit that I could imagine having a byline from Cory Booker. And he's like, "We're reclaiming the progressive mantle with my guy, Josh Shapiro."
And it's actually, in its essence, it's the exact same bullshit argument that he's making now. Actually, because of how bad Josh Shapiro is, maybe he'll be good. That was his argument for Josh Shapiro. If you read the stupid article, he talks about, well, Josh Shapiro is a committed Zionist ideologue, but maybe that means he'll actually be the one to get things done. Bullshit, of course. Same thing with Trump, though. Yeah, we all know he's terrible and a corrupt criminal and a total charlatan, but I don't know. Maybe that's why he'll actually get things done. No, that's just stupid. Like, that's not some, insight. That's not some like high IQ insight. Like, maybe if I eat this bowl of shit, it'll taste like chocolate ice cream, Zach. Who knows? Maybe if I keep going, maybe halfway through, it'll turn into chocolate ice cream. Who knows?
Yeah, I've seen The Help, right? Maybe it'll turn into a nice baked pie.
Otherwise, we have no chance of retaking the White House.
Yeah, well, and not even just no chance of retaking the White House, but no chance of really delivering for people. And
100%.
Ultimately, I don't give a shit whether the Democratic Party wins or loses. That's, I think what you and I, where we find common ground is I actually want to make life easier and better for people in this country. So, Cenk, love you, brother. Always great to see you. Glad to see you in town here.
Thank
Although
you,
I do feel bad for you. What is LA? It's probably like in the 70s right now. It's fucking cold as hell here right now. So I don't know what you're thinking about.
Yeah. So that's the end of the conversation. Great job from Krystal Ball, in my opinion. As Zach and I were saying earlier in the show, such an underrated debater. She's really like one of the best debaters I've ever seen. She always comes prepared. Seemingly it's impossible to catch her off guard. She always has like something ready to go, a response in her pocket. Really, really well done there. I think that, obviously Zach and I would have been more aggressive, but we don't have the relationship that Krystal has with Cenk. And I think that honestly, that was just as productive ultimately, because by the end, what'd she get him to admit? Oh yeah, I'll come back on here in a year, and if all the populist right people laid over and went along with Trump, regardless of whatever his fascist agenda is, then I'll admit you were right. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that, Cenk. I can't wait to hear you admit that not only Krystal was right, but that I was right, that Zach was right, and that the whole actual left was right, the actual principled left that said, hey guys, guess what? There's a storm coming. We gotta hunker down and prepare. We don't want to make friends with the storm. What are you talking about, bro? There's no making friends with the storm. You gotta get prepared. You gotta get prepared to actually resist what's coming, and that means being honest to your audience. Sorry, bro, but that's not what this is about for Cenk. For Cenk, it's about growing his platform, expanding his reach, finding a new audience, and making a lot more money.